Hola, ¿qué tal? Muy buenos días. Mi nombre es Sonia Ramírez y en nombre de Mauricio Reynoso, director general de AMEDIRH, de la propia asociación, su consejo directivo y de todos los quienes colaboramos en esta asociación, les damos la más cordial bienvenida a este webinar que el día de hoy, y gracias al patrocinio de Workday, tendremos y llevaremos a cabo en los próximos 50 minutos. Para acompañarnos estará Scott Guinn. Él es director de planeación y análisis de la fuerza laboral en Workday. Scott cuenta con más de 15 años de experiencia como usuario final y como especialista de solución en temas generales de planeación y analíticos, y en los últimos 6 años se ha enfocado más hacia temas de planeación de la fuerza laboral en diversas industrias. Y bueno, para darle la entrada a Scott, le dejo la palabra a Edgar Medina. Él es el director de marketing de Workday México. Edgar, bienvenido, muchísimas gracias.
Hola, muchísimas gracias Sonia por la introducción, muy buenos días a todos, gracias por la bienvenida, por la invitación para colaborar con ustedes en este webinar. Como bien lo mencionabas, ¿no? Hoy tenemos la presencia de Scott, uno de nuestros especialistas y apasionados sobre un tema que es muy relevante para nosotros y que lo debe de ser para todas las organizaciones, ¿no? Es la importancia de tener una gran planificación laboral, ¿no? Una planificación laboral que nos permite agilizar a un nivel general toda la organización, ¿no? La importancia de tener una visualización rápida en tiempo real de los datos de los empleados, de la detección de detectar insights, tendencias, costos, y sobre todo que toda esta información cómo les puede permitir crear planes de fuerza laboral dinámicos, y que estos planes los puedan poner en marcha de forma rápida y tener el mejor impacto hacia su negocio, ¿no? Entonces, otra vez, muchísimas gracias. Tenemos la opción de preguntas y respuestas. Scott al final de la sesión va a estar contestando a cada uno de sus comentarios y de sus preguntas, así que por favor, con toda libertad y confianza, esperamos sus comentarios. Sin más, I'll switch to English. Scott, welcome. Thank you for your participation, and the audience is all yours.
All right. Thank you, Edgar. Thank you so much, Sonia, as well. And the topic we are about to talk today is certainly timely, isn't it? The turbulent times we are in, and Sonia and I were just talking right before this about our aversion to even wanting to turn on the news. But we're going to talk really kind of more seriously about your own goals for your organization, and how Workday can help with some of the challenges that you're seeing with your workforce in these turbulent times. So before I jump in, I want to acknowledge that some of the content in the webinar may have some forward-looking statements that I make. This is something that Workday always provides. If you've ever talked to Workday in the past, you'll know that we always enforce this because we're always trying to be very transparent about what's in the product and what's not. With that, we always encourage you to make any purchase decisions based upon current product. So as Edgar explained, I am a product marketing director for workforce planning and analytics. I have a background in planning and analytics solutions in general that covers over 15 years. And you know, we all have very diverse backgrounds when we get into the world of HR. I actually started off flying helicopters for the US Navy for about 10 years before jumping into my career in software. And it's just amazing as I talk to many of you out there, how you all entered the HR human resource space. I've actually been focused on workforce planning solutions for the last 6 years, and the last 3 with Workday. So really excited and to share some of my perspectives with you all, and of course answer any questions at the end. So we're going to talk through the turbulent times we're in, of course, just to set the stage, but also kind of more importantly, even before these turbulent times, how there's this transformative need for HRs to be able to move as quickly as their business is, and no longer having to play catch up in the way of skills gaps or helping to align with business initiatives. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the importance of both analytics, surfacing those insights about your organization and your workers that you need to help inform your planning processes and goals. And then, of course, we're going to talk a couple of customer stories just to bring home some of the use cases that I'm going to share with you as we go along. And then we'll end, and we'll make sure to leave some time for questions and answers. So please feel free, as Edgar explained, to provide some questions in chat, in the chat window for us to answer. All right. So we talk a lot about the need for business agility. And in fact, even before the health crisis that we're currently in, the business environment that you all have been undergoing, ourselves as well at Workday, has made for the need for much greater business agility, right? As I explained. And there's a number of forces, even before this health crisis, that were driving that. Data exploding. But with it, the good news, we are getting much better, the technology that is, in mining that data, surfacing those insights, and brushing away some of the white noise that gets lost in all the data that you're seeing. Regulatory changes impacting global workforces, that's by country, by state or province, by city. All of those need to be captured within your HR systems and to help you make the right decisions for your workforce as you're going forward. And then, of course, disruptive digital technologies. Some of those even Workday provides, but enabling new business models for many organizations, and even for first movers and think technology and maybe e-commerce, if they have the right vision, the right skills to realize that vision, and some funding to back that up, the ability to virtually leap over competitors. So we talked most of last year when I was talking with many of your colleagues out there about how that need for business agility was really a determining factor for success in this data-driven, fast-paced world. And then, of course, the current crisis that we are currently in made virtually many lives, both personally and professionally, turning them upside down, and certainly many of the goals that you had before, you've had to step back and reassess what makes sense for you today. So this really interesting article, research by Josh Bersin, I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but I have his link down at the bottom, joshbersin.com. He comes up with some very timely research. He's been with in this HR space, in addition to core HR, also workforce planning, for quite some time. And he had some very, topical insights about the COVID challenge that we currently find ourselves. And he really captured it in this need to kind of hit the reset button, reset work, reset budgets. Now, every one of us has been impacted both personally and professionally, as I said, but you as HR and business leaders, you've had to completely rethink the impact to the business now, near term and long term, as best you can, but also how your workforce plans need to be adjusted, right, to align with this environment. Who do you need today to be back in the office or back in your production line? Who can work remotely? All of these are kind of new things that HR folks have not had to think about before. So the one thing that I thought was a great takeaway was number 5, where he talks about resetting HR, and that's coming together and operating as the heroes that we need to be. So a very, very, I think that captures well the weightiness of the decisions that you are making for your organization, the need for all of us in HR in this high unemployment environment to get our workforce planning right. So we talk about the need for insights and planning to work very well together. So from where you are, that's the role of data and insights, to where you want to go, that's all about planning, and we're going to talk about both. So knowing, of course, your talent that you have on your team is as critical as ever, but for an increasing number of reasons. So staffing for digital online channels and business has actually accelerated in this environment. And you've seen that yourself. Many of the e-commerce solutions that you see out there have actually seen an increase in business. And so the need for those skills is as acute as it's ever been. So maybe there are parts of the organization, however, where you can source people with similar skills and maybe perhaps a modest upskilling effort. Wouldn't it be great if you could look into your system and capture some of the skills of your current workforce to help you make some of those decisions? For other parts of the business, you are likely faced with having to rationalize your current skills capacity. What's your footprint of skills across your organization and their capability to deliver on your goals. And you're having to rationalize that against the revised forecasts that your finance team is sharing with you. And it might be in some areas, and it certainly is for many of us, less than what it was before. So balancing all these factors and finding creative ways to retain the talent that you worked so hard to grow, getting that right is the right role of getting that talent in the right role at the right time and at the right cost. This is a daunting challenge to reset plans for that. So Workday can certainly help here, and we've done it for many organizations. First, Workday HCM. So at the core, Workday HCM provides that single source for data for organizations related to their workforce, getting that critical worker data that helps you make important business decisions in response to the global pandemic that we're in, make adjustments to their workforce plans for the recovery ahead. Now, depicted here, you see icons of people, representing the people in your very organization. And attached to them, carried with them, is all the metadata that they are bringing in the way of skills, in the way of their worker history, in the way of their goals, and their experience. And then you're factoring those into each one of your HR programs, right? So Workday has components to help you do all of these. And that has been with our transactional system for quite some time. What we're here to share is we can help you actually surface those insights in ways that perhaps you couldn't do before, and then help plan against that. So one system delivering rich data and insights for a holistic view of your workforce, not just through spreadsheets and emails and lengthy workforce planning processes, but doing so in the context of HR programs that you're currently managing today, and in the context of worker life situations. What's their history? What's their skills and experience they bring? Now, armed with this information, you get a better perspective to help prepare and protect your organization's workforce. Say as you track essential and remote workers, and stay connected to gauge worker sentiment. You know, what is their preference? Do they have a certain situation at home where they can't work on site? Maybe it's a person at home. Maybe it's kids that are can't go to school yet. Maybe it's elderly parents that they need to take care of. But trying to navigate that while also helping your organization meet their needs. Very, very difficult, no question. So when we talk about planning and the transactional system, the one common denominator that helps both work effectively are the insights that you are bringing to that. It's surfacing the right information to help you in your workforce planning efforts. It's about making better transactional decisions too. And some of those insights are going to go right to an action. As a worker or a recruiter, you're taking those insights and you're helping that to help you accomplish today what you need to do today. But there's certain insights that you might take through an iterative nature and say, this business is slowing down. Maybe we need to freeze some of our hiring. Maybe we do some more creative things to slow those processes down. And part of that really is to step back and incorporate planning into your processes, reassess. And you'll notice as you kind of look at these from side to side, on the left, you've got the workforce planning, which is a slower cadence, right? It's more methodical. That's on the left side. On the right side, you've got your talent optimization, your workforce management, where the cadence is much faster. But with those iterations, if you're not monitoring those analytics, those insights, you can get out of step with where the business is today. So we help with that. So there's a few ways in which workforce analytics, we deliver workforce analytics to you. Some of those are right there within Workday HCM. Others are within a module that we call Prism, which helps you analyze a high volume of data and also bring in third-party data. It might be salary benchmark data. It could be seasonal information that you're gathering depending on the industry that you're in, and it could be even compliance information. Many times it's about the operational data, like say if you're in a delivery or logistics company, you have lots of operational data that's coming in, and Prism can help you with that. So the last one is people analytics, which actually does some machine learning powered by augmented analytics, can help you scan massive amounts of data quickly to surface prioritized insights that you might have otherwise missed just with your own insights that you're gathered in the analytics tools, and then gives you a recommended next decision for what to do next. So listed on this page, you see some of the things that you might solve for. What is the cost of furlough versus layoff? How is this normal impacting employee well-being? What are the talent shifts that we're doing? What are the skills that I need? And how do I retain that top talent even in this environment and not make rash decisions about letting them go too quickly? Maybe instead you are slowing down or reducing hours, or maybe you are doing a furlough but keeping their benefits going. So there's a number of creative factors that we can do there. So all of these with Workday help you do each one of these: monitoring costs, understanding employee experience, evaluating the organizational shape, and so that's the organizational design. Maybe you want to look at your current spans of control, your number of managers to direct workers, and either expand those or reduce those. And then all the while assessing skills as well as your top performers. So we talked a lot about analytics, and this brings us to the next topic, which is really, my core competency, because I love analytics, but I really love analytics to help inform me on what to do next and how to plan for that. And there's different ways, and we'll talk about how these fit within your own organization, where to get started. But the overlap of all of these is really a strategic workforce plan. And this is looking, starting with a strategic assessment of your business initiatives and your business goals, and then allocating resources against that. At the top, is kind of the bread and butter, but so important because many organizations and that we talk to, even very large enterprise ones, are still or have, before they purchase workforce planning, we're doing so in spreadsheets and hitting performance issues, and we're talking hundreds of Excel workbooks or Google Sheets together, and we're just faced with the challenge of that, and also the quality of work that their team was going through in order to bring that forward. But we also get into compensation and resource planning, and this is talking about advanced compensation planning around managing the buckets of data, whether that's the salary data or benefits data, or putting steps in for the different incentives that you might have. And then there's the talent planning. And this is an area where we are investing heavily, even as organizations are stretching to be able to make sure that their data is good, right? And we can help with that too. But because you can't really do good salary planning or talent planning if you don't have an enterprise platform for doing planning. But where I was going with this was having that right data of what's their skills today. And, that skills, what does that mean? You can think of position and the job profile as a level of granularity of talent, right? But you can actually even dive down further than that. It might be talent around, it might be skills around certain technologies and certifications that you have, and that you might not realize that many of your workforce actually has. So bringing these all together is very important. And of course, I talked a little bit about the importance of having an enterprise planning platform for that. We purchased adaptive planning about 2 years ago, and we did that for a number of reasons. One was we felt the need for multidimensional modeling as being very important in this space. You might not realize, usually you think of multidimensional modeling, so a number of dimensions about your workers, as being something just for finance. But the fact is, because you are doing a number of assessments about your workforce, and if you look at the top, you can see a bit blurry, but skills gap by category, skills gap by ranked skill, like what are the most important ones. You can look at skills gap by competency level, and so on. And the ability to slice that by region, by department, by team, is something that this particular solution brings to you and is very important in the environment that we're in about being agile, right? So company-wide collaboration is the next important component of that. And that's all about making sure that all the stakeholders that you need for a good workforce plan have a shared view that everybody's tracking to, and it's not via spreadsheets. Continuous planning, this is all about the agility and speaks to the agility that I spoke to at the top, particularly in this environment, but even before then, the need to always be assessing the current data that's coming in, and quickly, maybe you don't change your plans, but maybe you are modifying them on a quarterly basis, something more frequently than perhaps you did in the past, and we can help you with that. So bringing these both together, I love this graphic because it really talks to the employee journey at your organization. So first you're onboarding them and going through talent acquisition process for that, looking at your recruiter bench, making sure that there are not too many bottlenecks, looking at the pipeline of candidates that you are bringing in, and making sure that you are on track and don't become a bottleneck for your sales organization, for example, or your production organization, to be able to meet some of their commitments that they've made to the executive team. Next, we talk about learning and development. And this is where, as you assess your workforce and you're, reorganizing perhaps to meet some of the parts of your business that have an acceleration in demand, even while others are in decline. This is where you can assess current skills in those areas that are in decline, and perhaps with some upskilling or a transfer, if they're ready to move over, you can move those over into positions to help them. I was talking to a customer just this week, in fact, and he's in the insurance, large insurance provider, and he was talking about how now with adaptive planning, he's actually moving some of his staff that were managing new claims or new business, moving them over to managing the services for existing business, so new claims, as a number of employees actually were, or not a number of customers were looking to reduce their insurance and try to save some money that way. So there was a big spike in volume of business there, and he was able to transfer for a temporary basis from kind of revenue generating to support to help alleviate that. So organizational deployment, up at the top right, that gets into headcount and cost planning, resource capacity planning, and organizational design. And then finally, making sure that you are have a good pulse to those really important critical skills and the people that are providing those, that are moving the business, making sure that you are compensating them correctly and can have a pulse to where you see attrition, maybe unwanted attrition at that. All of that requires planning and analytics, right? So when we talk to many of you out there, usually your organization, is the first question, or maybe the second question after just understanding what workforce planning is and how we were providing it is, where does my organization fit? And most often, it would be right down there at headcount and cost planning, and that's a great way to go. This is where many of them on-ramp. We put it in the way of a maturity curve, mainly because of the descriptors that you see on the right. So the need for more data granularity of the worker, and the need for perhaps increased advanced functionality in the software you're using to get it. And you can kind of see where that would easily progress in this chart. So headcount and cost planning, we just did a webinar with Commerce Bank up in the Midwest of the US, and they were doing headcount and cost, even advanced cost planning. And they had just gone live, and we're now supporting about 130 companies. We'll get into their metrics in just a minute. But a number of the person I just talked to in the insurance claim, he's starting with his organization around headcount and cost planning as well. Resource planning and org modeling, probably the best business that I think we all know quite well is in the airline industry, and that's Airbus is utilizing our solution for adaptive planning for the workforce to help them with their resource planning. So what does that mean? That's just all about the operational components. I'm doing the understanding the skills that they have, and understanding, as you all know, that the airline industry, even in this environment, Airbus has quite an extensive backlog of orders that they're trying to meet. And their ability to meet those orders enables them to bring in more revenue for that given year. So they're always trying to optimize the people and skills those people bring across a number of production facilities. And so these folks are utilizing resource planning, adaptive planning for resource planning to be able to do that. Strategic workforce planning and talent planning are very close, and we'll talk a little bit more about those in the next sets of slides as we break this down. So one of the big benefits, that you can think of is, why would I need to move off spreadsheets and emails other than, and this is an important consideration, just the time and the errors that are spent collecting that data, assessing its accuracy, and distributing that through the organization. But another key component, and this is not always well received in HR because they want to, you want to keep your own data, but it's really bridging that gap with finance, so that finance is, they're very interested in the headcount, but they're really interested more from a cost perspective, as I don't need to share with you. But with adaptive insights, you can now allow finance to see a view that shows those numbers, even while in your views, you have more depth and quality of the information that you are looking at. So that's the skills, right? That's the HR programs that you have in place, the learning programs. All those are very important to you and your ability to achieve organizational goals. Finance just wants to make sure that you're staying within budget. And I'm perhaps doing them a bit of a disservice, because the fact is, many folks in FP&A are actually purchasing adaptive planning for headcount planning for this very reason, because they do want to understand a little bit more, while not being a bottleneck to you achieving your goals, but a better synchronization so they can do a better job of forecasting, as the quarter comes to a close. So this is a very, very important and probably the most often used use case. The next one is the Airbus one that I talked to you about. So the ability to work across the business, between your HR business partner and business leaders and back to HR and your workforce planning team, is essential to be able to optimize the skills capacity as you do that. And then finally, and where we're investing a significant amount of money as an organization here at Workday is really helping organizations do a better job of mining the talent they have and utilizing that talent to achieve goals and using critical skills. And on the right, you can see the demand for that talent. And we just threw up a few examples of areas where the need or that critical need for those critical skills is very acute. And they're not all e-commerce or the latest technology. Right there at the top is sales leadership. And we all know how oftentimes a quarter, really a quarter being able to deliver by the end of that quarter on our revenue goals is very well subject to the leadership that we have in our sales organization. Right. So, but there are many there as well. And all of these, taking the talent on the left, you'll see kind of a couple cute icons, like what are the aliens there? Those are actually bots. And so that's, if you look in the middle for how adaptive planning can help, we can help you solve for that, hiring the talent you need, whether we can upskill or reskill that talent, whether we can transfer that in the mobility area, or through automation, replacing some of the very repetitive tasks with some automation, and that's what our little bots are for. But the ability to do this is all about the data. So down below, you see whether it's financial assumptions, the current market data, skills availability, and this is where you can actually look across different areas of the country and the globe and find out the best way to bring those skills on board. It could be, outside of your country, or it could be within. Recruiting, onboarding, all of these are insights that help inform that planning process. This last one, and this was not in the maturity curve, right? But it's a use case that is coming up a lot, and it might be really interesting for you as well. This is all about facilities site planning, and we actually have a solution for this, but it's helping you manage the your current facilities capacities against the need for those capacities of workers coming back to work. And this is in the office represented here, but it's also in the production line. And of course, it varies considerably by industry. In production, especially food production, workers need to be there, on the production lines. So how do we do that and help them do that safely? Workforce planning by adaptive insights, actually, or adaptive planning can help you do just that. So looking at, for example, maybe you want to bring some of the workers back in a phased approach. You can prioritize a list of your current workers, assessing who can work remotely, who needs to be in who are your essential workers that need to be in the office, who are the most important workers that you need to get back to help restart some of your business and production lines. And then who has considerations that you need to also address, whether it's health considerations or family considerations, where as an alternative, they could work remotely. So I have here just a way of how that depicts in the way of waves coming back into the office and making sure that you have the right social distancing protocols in place, the right security protocols in place to ensure their current safety, and also a monitoring component. And we partnered with a couple of organizations to help with that monitoring of current health status via your iPhone. So a really interesting content that I wanted to share with you because it's very timely and it does speak to the environment you're in. You're doing things that you and HR probably never thought you would really be managing is facilities challenges. And so this helps you do just that. So you can kind of determine if you look at the screen, what's your readiness, your business readiness to bring in workers. And you can do that by location, even by floor level, making sure that you have the right capacity in place and the social distancing guidelines to help address that. So I talked a lot about I think, where we're at, we talked about the market, the need for important immediate decisions, but making sure that we also have an eye for the long term. We are going to get through this, and we are going to get things back to a more normal. So let's not lose all that talent. What are some creative ways that we can keep them today? I said that I would come back to Commerce Bank because they have a great use case and a great team there that are utilizing adaptive planning. So, a mid to large enterprise customer with 380 locations, they were challenged because on the right in results and benefits, they had 120 budget owners, which is really the business owner, but they call it budget owner for the process. And they were collecting all those in individual workbooks, trying to connect those workbooks and consolidate those. And it was a nightmare. And so they deployed adaptive planning. I believe it was in January of this year, came online just this past June. And I have a couple of details just on kind of how their process works. And you can kind of visualize for yourself, whether it's in spreadsheets or in emails, and maybe a mix of your current legacy systems, how you're doing this too, right? You gather your goals and initiatives. You, against that, bring in your current workforce data via Workday, and you provide a top-down plan. And then you're starting to negotiate with the operational business units about how that budget can be allocated. So in your top-down plan, you might have, 10 frontline workers and one manager, and maybe the budget owner or business leader, team leader says, "I'd like to make 2 managers and 6 frontline workers." And so you're having that trade-off, and it could be some business units don't need as much budget for this current business cycle. Doesn't happen very often, right? But there is a trade-off based upon your prioritization. And then, of course, there's an iteration. And so in the case of Commerce Bank, and this is their illustration, they had 5 different phases of iterations until the final approved plan was put in place by the executive team and CEO. So a great illustration of the process. So I wanted to close before we jump into Q&A. You've all been very patient and kind of just help you understand Workday's vision. I talked a lot about the importance of having analytics and planning together. Well, really having those both on the transactional systems for which Workday first made our initial investments in HCM and financials has really been core to our vision, because we understood very early on that you as customers in your organization, don't want to deal with the integration challenges. And so you asked us to take that on. And so we have. So our goal and our vision, and we're getting really good at it and better every day, is to be able to deliver one experience for you, one source for data, one security model, and enable the things that you need in the way of collaboration, having a comprehensive platform, and be able to plan continuously to help you meet your goals with workforce planning. So the key takeaways that I hope I gave before I turn it over to, or at least ask Edgar for any questions that came in, are understand the importance of insights to gain those important decisions you need, and allocate which decisions you can act on today and which ones you need to collect and reassess in a way of adjusting your workforce plans to enable the agility that you so need in this environment. And of course, connection is incredibly important in workforce planning, especially for your extended businesses, whether it's across the globe or in different parts of the business, but understanding how the business itself is achieving its objectives and making the right decisions to help to do that. So with that, Edgar, what do we have for Q&A?
Perfect. Thank you, Scott. We have some questions over here. Igual, por favor, todavía tenemos algún tiempo, espacio. Sigan aquí escribiendo sus preguntas. Se las paso directo a Scott. So, Scott, first question. On workforce planning, which would be the appropriate use of outsourced employees for not affecting HR headcount?
Which would be the best use of outsourcing so not affecting headcount? So that's employing a contingent worker as opposed to headcount. And the trade-off there is the ability to, especially in this business environment, certainly see how bringing on a contingent worker helps you be more agile in your business decision between, in a very volatile business environment, keeping them on. Of course, the trade-off is the cost of that worker. Typically, contingent workers are gonna cost a little bit more because they're taking on their own benefits. To assess that, to do that though, I think you are also trying to understand which use case would that fall under. Those contingent workers fall under the headcount and cost planning, so you can incorporate that into your plan in addition to your full-time workforce. Hope that makes sense.
All right, perfect. In your model, I see you are considering headcount and cost, but I don't see the profit by person or position. Could that be possible?
Oh, absolutely. It's funny, depending on who you talk to, some organization HR teams don't have access to that or the cost component. And it's a point that we're trying to help enforce, that you can have all of that data in one model with views that by security, HR doesn't see, but the finance team does. But let's say that you're in an HR organization and you do have that access. Absolutely, you can look at the profitability for the, it's not just about your cost centers, it's also about your profitability centers, whether that's in sales, whether that's in support and services. So yes, absolutely.
Perfect. For a small, medium company, something around 1,000 employees, 2 locations, how does Workday help my company?
Same exact way. In fact, because the model, is definitely designed for medium businesses as well. If you look at adaptive planning's history, and if you go online, by the way, don't get confused because you might come up with adaptive insights. We are rebranding it as Workday Adaptive Planning. But you could do a Google search and you would find a number of small to medium-sized businesses, in fact, that are Workday customers and adaptive planning customers. In fact, I would say, AMEDIRH, it's about a 30-30-30 split. There's, it kind of varies a little bit, but that 30 is 30 large enterprise, 30% medium enterprise, 30% small businesses.
Okay, perfect. Let me check. Can you share an example where you apply artificial intelligence?
Gosh, that's a good one. We're doing that in a few places, and we're not. It's not predictive intelligence, but the people analytics is where we are surfacing. We purchased a technology called Stories BI a couple years ago that really helps us surface trends that we're seeing in different metrics that we're looking at, and that those metrics might be around diversity, it might be around skills, and it is able to pick up and surface for us key insights that it's seeing. And it could be attrition, in a location is higher than it was this time last year by a certain percent, and it allows you to drill down on it. So it's not exactly artificial intelligence, it's more machine learning based. I think we still believe that machine learning is the better way to go. It's based upon historical data and trends, and that really augmented analytics is better than predicting for us where we should go for the organization, because it's very difficult to bring in all of that data that you need to make the right decisions and have bots do that for you.
Okay. Do you think the compensation package that current organizations are managing, what kind of changes do you believe will be necessary to take into account?
For compensation changes, I think the biggest one is the demand for the market. I mean, I'm a big believer in bringing in salary benchmark data. And there's a number of organizations that do that. A number of folks that we talked to, including the couple of examples that I gave last week, have a history of salary data, and they use that to manage their benchmarks. And that's not just for the salary, but it's also for the benefits portion. It's for the incentivization. I think for that, though, as the millennial workers come on, they have different wants and needs, and I think it's important to look at different ways for those compensation plans to be non-monetary, maybe quantified as monetary. And so, to give you an example, having parking, near their workplace is very important. Being able to have more flexibility in their work hours is another need, and these don't show up in your dollars, but they are considerations to make. So I guess I would encourage surveying your workforce to find out what is important to them is very important, and Workday helps out with that too, and that helps inform your compensation decisions as well.
Perfect. Okay, let me check, but I think those were the questions from the audience. Scott, thank you very much for your answers. Muchas gracias por sus preguntas. Y bueno, con este...
Yes, so welcome. And thank you for taking the time. Really appreciate you inviting me to kind of share with you what we're doing in the area.
Well, thank you very much, Scott, Mauricio Reynoso from AMEDIRH. Gracias por la traducción y el acompañamiento también. Y nos vemos en la próxima edición de un webinar más de AMEDIRH. Que tengan muy buen día, cuídense mucho. Hasta luego. Thank you very much again, Scott.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mauricio.
Edgar, que tengas buen día también y gracias por tu apoyo.
Muchísimas gracias. Hasta pronto.